Welcome back to the Brand Nerd Podcast. On this episode, we're talking about the biggest mistake people make with StoryBrand. What up, nerds? Welcome back. Excited to have you back on the Brand Nerd Podcast. I'm Mitch Metter, your host, and today we're talking about the biggest mistake people make with StoryBrand. I'm a 6-year StoryBrand certified guide. I've been doing this a long time and have helped hundreds of companies and brands go through this process. So if you're familiar with StoryBrand, you know that StoryBrand is a marketing framework or a messaging framework that helps you create a clear and compelling message for your products or services. The word message can be a little bit confusing. It's essentially the words you use to describe your products and services. You know that big brands are very familiar with storytelling principles. They love a good story for their commercial. Politicians love their stories. Stories compel people. So when we create a story brand, we're using storytelling principles, the same ones used in Hollywood and by great authors to compel readers and watchers. And we're going to use the same thing in our message. And you also know that the number one principle of StoryBrand is that your customer is the hero, not your brand. And when you invite someone into the story you're telling about them, it's much more compelling. By inviting someone into a story that's about them, you're much more likely to get that aha moment that we're all looking for when it comes to our marketing. And again, if you're familiar with the StoryBrand framework, you already know this, but the StoryBrand framework is 7 steps. There's a character with a problem that meets a guide who gives them a plan, calls them to action, and that action results in success or failure. We see the same hero's journey play out in thousands of Hollywood movies, in some of the greatest books of all time, including Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Hunger Games, and many more. Here I'm showing you the actual slide that is in the StoryBrand keynote that goes out to every guide, and you can see how this story framework unfolds. And then here I'm showing you the questions you answer to develop your StoryBrand script. But there's a big mistake that people make when they jump straight into this framework too fast. The first question is, what does your character want? But how do we decide or know what our character wants if we don't first know who our character is? This is a big mistake. Instead of starting with what do they want, you need to start with who are they? How can you tell a story about someone you don't know? Instead of starting with what do they want, you need to start with who are they? When I meet with a new client, we usually spend 60 to 90 minutes going over just this question. Who are they? And there are a ton of questions that we go over to build a profile of who their character is. And we also go through a couple of different characters because when you're a business or you have a product that you're trying to market, there are potentially a couple different ideal clients. For example, there's clients who are just great to work with, like your favorite client out there. Then there's your most profitable clients and people who really need your services. And hopefully those two are aligned. You're really profitable and you're really good to work with. That's your favorite client. And when I'm working with someone, I ask them to name that person. Use their actual name, first name, last name, whatever you're comfortable sharing in our call. You name your character and you build the story around that person, because if there are hundreds or thousands or millions of other people out there like that person, then that's the story you want to tell. Another type of person that you might build a character profile on is like a real life stretch client or aspirational client, somebody that you haven't been able to work with yet, but man, it would be awesome if you could. Like, that would take your business or your product to the next level. Once we've specifically identified and named these clients, then we ask a large series of questions to build out a profile. And this is a slide from my deck that we go over on the call. And we'll spend, like I said, 60 to 90 minutes on this slide. So I'm actually grabbing my laptop here. I'm looking at the same slide you are. And some of the things we go through are approximate age, gender. I have a percentage there because it's important to know that sometimes some of these characteristics don't matter as much depending on your industry, products, that kind of thing. But the percentage breakdown. So like if you're 80% male, then let's go ahead and call a spade, and your character is male. But if it's 50-50, it's probably not as important to the message. Their location, where they live, their home, their type of education, their employment, wealth class, are they doing really well, or maybe they're really struggling? Hobbies they might have, marital status, views on marriage and things like that, children. Nostalgia is a very potent marketing thing. Motivations and values. What are the things that they value in their life that motivate them? Specific news sources, religion, and politics. Those can all kind of be one thing, right? Heroes and villains. Who are the people they look up to? Who are the people that they vilify? Vacation spots, entertainment sources, podcasts and books, memberships they might have, certifications they might have, social media habits, like what are the platforms that they're on, if they're on them. And then the last one, brand affiliations, is huge. If you've got a big segment of clients that are into, say, Patagonia, like that says something about them. Yeti mugs, Yeti coolers, like that says something about you if you're into that brand. So identifying some of those brands can really help in building a well thought out character profile. Once you answer these questions, you're ready to start actually diving into the StoryBrand framework, because you know who your customer is, who your character is in this story. Who is this hero that is moving through the journey, that's meeting you, the guide, who is hoping to make their life better and finding you, this bastion of hope, to help them get through the perils of their journey. Every company, small business, product, or even people, personal brands, I believe all of those things have a brand, even if they don't know it yet. A brand is just your perception from other people. What do other people perceive about your company or about you? The StoryBrand framework is the best tool I know to create a clear brand message that resonates with the right kind of people. You might have heard me say this before, but if you try to be everything to everybody, you end up being nothing to nobody. And that is exactly what we want to avoid with our message. We don't want it generic. We don't want it for everybody. This is for a specific person. You've heard other things like riches are in the niches. It's the same concept. You need to have a focused message on your exact character. And how do you do that without knowing who the character is? If you're looking to work with an expert, I would love to speak with you. In fact, at Brand Nerd, the agency I founded after becoming StoryBrand certified, we have a series of packages we call StoryBrand Sprints. And this is specifically developed to get you to a clear message fast. Not in weeks, not in days, but in hours. Go to storybrandsprint.com to check out some of the available packages. Book an intro call with me. I would love to see you face to face. All right, we've reached the end of the episode. I just want to say thank you so much for listening, and I want to ask a little favor of you. Could you go over to YouTube and press the like button and leave a comment? That helps the algorithm put this video in front of more people. And while you're there, you might as well hit subscribe, because that really helps my ego. You can find the Brand Nerd on all the social media platforms at Deploy the Nerds. That's our handle. Again, thank you so much for listening, and until next time, stay curious.